everybody. Welcome to Ralph's Pound for Pound Breakdown. I am Ralph, here to break down kind of UFC, MMA, current events that have happened today. A lot of it's more of the UFC drama that's been unfolding with Dana White, the president of the UFC, former owner, and 100% just a guy who seems to be pissing people off. We're going to jump right into it. That way I can get back to watching my Dana's Tuesday night fights, which is one of the highlights of my Tuesdays, other than going on my dates with my wife. So here's the thing. We're going to go ahead and start up with Dana White versus Tyron Woodly. With this is an issue that happened stemming from UFC 214. You got Dana White pretty pissed off the fact that Tyron Woodly and Damian Maia, the fight didn't go anywhere near the way it could have or should have. Dana seems to feel that Tyron could have ended the fight in the first round, maybe the second round, basically from an uppercut that was given to Maia's right eye. He said that he had Maia on the ropes. Anybody can say anything from outside the cage, and of course he is a specialist watching fighters his whole life. And I'd like to think I can look at what he's saying and understand what he's saying, but also Tyron's got a great fucking idea too. How about, no, he's the champ. He'll do what he wants to do so that he can actually focus on getting the belt saved in his hands. And I honestly look at it the first time I did the first podcast right after UFC 214. I was pissed myself. I'm like, dude, it was out of all three title fights, you got Tyron Woodley versus Damian Maia, one of the greatest fighters on the planet versus the other greatest fighter on the planet. And you look at these guys, you're thinking you're going to have a barn burner, but really what it is one specialist for ground, one specialist for knockouts and wrestling. And the wrestling defense helped a lot with 21 or so takedowns by Damian Maia. That didn't happen. He just shot in and takedowns were defended. Also, you got Tyron Woodley, who just never really let off. He's blaming his shoulder. He has a tear or something in that nature where his arm hurts. And understandable if he didn't say anything before the fight. Of course, no fighter wants to. They all want to make sure that they keep everything as a hidden secret. You don't want to give anybody no edges right before you get into a fight. So going into that, everybody was thinking, what we were told on the Wednesday night press conference was that the winner of Damian Maia versus Tyron Woodley got to fight GSP. With that in mind, GSP being one of the greatest takedown specialists on the planet, also being one of the most boring fighters towards the end of his career. He kind of did what Tyron's doing now. I love GSP. He's one of my favorite fighters, but he did the same thing. He held his belt. I mean, he still fought, but he fought a little bit more safe than when you would see him in his earlier years, when he fought Matt Hughes originally, when he fought BJ Penn originally. You would see things where this guy was 100% like he'd go after it. And so I was thinking that'd be a great fight. Well, Dana he decided that at the end of Tyron versus Damian Maia, since Tyron won and he was pissed, he was going to rip that fight away from Tyron, give GSP back over to Bisping, who he said the door was closed on that. However, you got Bisping coming out on his radio podcast saying that he kind of knew already that he was fighting GSP. He's going to go on a 10-day vacation with his kids, and then he's going to end up going with a 11-week or 10-week camp getting ready for GSP. Now, that kind of just shows Dana, he's pissed that night, but what did he do? Really what he did is you're taking a company, WME IMG is the company that bought UFC. All those fucking acronyms make you go crazy. Thank God I'm not drinking at the moment. And when this happened, WME decided that they need to make this shit more fun. They need to be more, WWF-ish. So, with that idea, they need to be more action. You're seeing all these fights now that are more super fights they want to keep making. I mean, you got John Jones calling out Brock Lesnar for fuck's sake. You just got back to 205. The division's in disarray. Nobody knows what to do. Who's he going to fight? And all of a sudden, you're calling out a dude who's been just busted for PEDs, and you gotta think that somewhere in the world, WME or Dana White or someone has got it in their mind, like, we need to start making some shit happen. We need to take the Vince McMahon approach, the WWF style of, who you gonna get when you gotta get somebody? So, hope you like the voice. Really, it's what you start to see. I'm starting to see a lot more of the games, the bullshit you see from all the WWF stuff moving into the UFC. I mean, CM Punk pulling him in, cool. You got a dude who wants to fight, said he did some shit before. The dude got owned, easily owned. You got James Toney fight, a boxer comes into the UFC MMA style arena and just gets destroyed really quick with a heel hook takedown. You got Randy Couture winning. When you start looking into things like that, and you're going to get a certain type of fan, you're not going to get the real fans. The guys like me that have been watching since '93, that have been following jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, Muay Thai, kickboxing, all these little things. When you start to see them follow this shit, you can realize that that's not really what we want. We want that. We don't want that. We want that. We want the cool, real-world shit. We don't want the black belt who comes up to you saying he did karate 7 years ago and can't tell you who his instructor is, but says he can give you the Kumite death touch. We don't want that shit. What we're looking for is we want the real-life situation of the UFC, the MMA, the baddest dudes on the planet. So, getting down to that with Dana White, I'm going to continue on him because there's two others that I want to bring up to this. Actually, there's going to be three. Dana White, now you got into it with Tyron Woodly. Tyron came out today on Ariel Helwani's show and said that he was pissed at Dana White. Dana White owes him a public apology, and that otherwise he's going to start dumping information that he has in regards to UFC, Dana White. He specifically said Dana White. So, needless to say, that happened in New York. New York's 3 hours ahead of California. I'm in Cali. And out here, you're looking at, I wake up at I wake up at 5:30 in the morning and I start watching podcasts. First podcast I watch, Ariel Helwani's. No matter what anybody says, he could be this or that. That dude's got the info. He's got the respect of all the UFC fighters, and he's got the inside scoop. Just like a lot of these fighters out there who know more than what people ask them questions about or what they say. A lot of people don't tell you shit. They're not going to tell you anything. But there's small little pockets of dudes who are fighters and trainers and coaches and all that good stuff who have the info. So after this comes out, you got Tyron Woodly, who of course is close in the UFC because he's a champion. They're going to treat him like gold. He drops, no info, just a hint of, you know what, I could drop info. I got some shit to tell you. I'm going to WikiLeak the fuck out y'all. Well, after that, and it was a good 45-minute conversation between Tyron and Ariel Helwani, Dana White, you'll find this on MMA Weekly, you'll find MMA Imports, fucking Drudge Report, anywhere, any UFC shit, you find on Google fucking News. Dana and Tyron squash it. TMZ dropped that shit, which I was surprised about, but fucking hawks, fucking vultures. Those motherfuckers found him, and Dana and Tyron both, we good. So obviously they had to talk. Obviously some money happened, or, apologies happened, or I respect you as a fighter, and what, blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you why I think that. Because Dana also got into it with Ariel Helwani way back at UFC 200. UFC 200, what happened there, and this is actually the reason Dana hates Ariel Helwani, is because Ariel broke the UFC 200 golden goose. He took the egg and he threw it out in the world too early. And what that was is that's Brock Lesnar was going to fight at UFC 200. That was just the news. That was before their big commercial that they spent all this money on was put out in the world. You know what? There were rumblings of it. Nobody knew the actual answer, but a lot of people actually knew. I don't know if you knew that or not, UFC, but I mean, the MMA community is pretty fucking small, okay? You're not going to get much bias. Yeah, you're sharing it for the general public, the dudes who, I might watch that fight. Who's fighting again? That dude. but you're not going to get the real UFC fans. I mean, we know this shit. We hear this shit all the time. So, Ariel Helwani broke UFC 200. He broke the golden egg. After he did that with Brock Lesnar, the UFC pulled his card, said, you know, you're not about allowed to be a fucking journalist at UFC. He broke his heart, you know. Ariel goes on his show. He cries a bunch. He got really emotional, which, I mean, if you get that high up and you got more respect from the fighters and you respect the fighters, I mean, what do you really, that's his life. You took his livelihood. And with that, he got it back because the praise from fans like myself, I made a big deal about it. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything I could find. I was bashing the shit out of UFC for that move. Dana White too. It's fucking bullshit, man. So along with that, they got him back. He put him back on the spot. But as you can see, nowadays he's getting more. He gets access to the fighters, but doesn't get much access to the presser. He doesn't get much access to Dana. No access to Dana White. Dana doesn't even want to talk to him. The last UFC 214 press conference that happened on Wednesday, he was up next to ask a question to Dana White or to the UFC people on the stand, and Dana straight up saw that he was coming up and said, all right, last question. Right there, Ariel's like, what the fuck, dog? So, you know, that happened, and then today he comes out and actually he gives the story. He calls Ariel Helwani a weasel. He says he's, you know, he I don't know what the fuck. He just doesn't like him. You know, he's going to go on the live radio and call Ariel Helwani a weasel and whatnot, and that's understandable. You don't like the guy. But Ariel, I mean, he deserves a lot of respect from reporters out there because he gets the respect from the fighters because he says what's right. He interviews people correctly, and he asks the right questions. That on its own should be enough for everyone to understand that, like, homeboy is he's the real deal. So that's the second one. So you got Tyron. Now you got Ariel. Well, you had Ariel Helwani first, honestly. Then you had Tyron. Previous to Tyron, you got Demetrious Johnson. Now DJ wouldn't fight T.J. Dillashaw after Cody Garbrandt had got injured after the Tough Ultimate Fighter season fucking 25 or 24. Me and my wife were watching the shit out of that until we found out that Cody Garbrandt wasn't fighting anymore. And then I'm like, well, you know what? This is fucking stupid. Every single goddamn time that I watch one of these Ultimate Fighters, you got two of the baddest people on the planet. One of them gets hurt because you got them in there for 3 months of doing video tapes, and you got them for 3 more months doing their training. Between that, that's 6 months, and then they get injured right before the fucking real fight happens. Here's my view of this and my idea. 3-way team Ultimate Fighter matches. You got the champion, you got the number 1 contender, and then you got the number 2 contender of the division. Those 3 guys have 3 different teams, 3 different numbers. You have injured guys. You can swap them between teams to make it even if you need to. Fuck, bring anything. But 3 teams. 3 teams would make it lots more simple. So that way, if you got Michael Bisping as the coach and you got Robert Whittaker as the second coach and you got Yoel Romero as the third coach, then you're going to end up with, let's say Bisping gets hurt. Then you have that fight, Yoel Romero versus Robert Whittaker. Of course, these fights already happened. Now we know Robert Whittaker would be the number 1. He's the interim champ, or he's the number 1 runner-up while Bisping's out. But now at least you have one of those 2 dudes who are open to do a fight. So it's just an idea out there, UFC, if you ever get to hear this. Moving on, Dana also versus Amanda Nunes, the champion for 135, the girl who beat Miesha Tate, the girl who has Ronda's belt, essentially. She's supposed to be fighting, and with that, Dana got really pissed that she pulled out of a fight on UFC 213. It really hurt their pay-per-view buys. It also honestly showed Yoel Romero and Robert Whittaker more when they should have been one of the better fights because they were the best motherfuckers on that card. Amanda Nunes is good and all, but I don't think she's ready for the top card. So Dana comes out and says, I'll never let them do the top card again. She'll never run a pay-per-view as the main event. It's like, come on, dude. You keep bashing your people. You want good reviews. WME wants good reviews. You can't keep coming out knocking your dudes. Like, oh, no, fuck that person. I know, no, I represent them, but even though I represent them, they suck. They're horrible. I can't believe they do this shit. Why would they do this to you? The fans don't want to see you. Says Tyron Woodly, the fans don't want to see him fight. Are you fucking kidding me? He keeps winning. Now, does he knock everyone out? No. But real mixed martial arts fans know that's the baddest dude versus the baddest dude. All these other people who you need this pay-per-view money for, it's all because WME bought $4 billion companies that they couldn't afford. Well, if you can't fucking afford it, don't buy it, jerk-offs. I got no sympathy from me, okay? I pay my bills too, just like everyone else. But you're going to sit here and tell me that you're more worried about making super fights, you're more worried about pissing in everybody's Cheerios because you're not getting your way because you need more pay-per-view buys. And now you're going to bring up Jon Jones, Brock Lesnar, and you just got Jon Jones back with UFC 214 set to make over 1 million buys. You need to ride that motherfucking horse until the wheels fall off and keep him away from the heavyweight division. Go grab DC, who's talking about moving up to heavyweight now since he knows he'll never be a 205 champ again, and put him at heavyweight and see how he does. Go find someone not and tell them not to touch Cain Velasquez. Tell nobody to touch Cain Velasquez. They're not allowed to look at him cross-eyed. He'll fucking break, okay? You need that dude back too. So start getting your shit together. Shit's getting irritating. Now, you need to put DJ on the poster for UFC. You can't knock a dude who's a champion. DJ doesn't want to fight TJ Dillashaw because one more fight and he'll be tied with Anderson Silva for 10 consecutive title defenses. He's going to want to fight again after that. So he's going to fight Ray Borg right now, the number one contender in his division. He's not fighting TJ Dillashaw, a guy who's 2 weight classes above him, to come back down and fight at his weight level for what? He didn't earn a fucking spot. So with that, I'm just saying Dana's pissing everybody off, and then he tries to make good with them, and they go back and forth, and then they tell us it's all good. In reality, I have no idea why Dana White's getting, hostile with all these fighters. Honestly, a fight's a fight, and we should be teaching people that the UFC and mixed martial arts, Bellator, fucking Invicta, all of them, it's not always going to be exciting. You hear the crowds when it's exciting. You hear the roars when somebody flips and does a sweep or passes guard or gets a certain position. You see him crawling in a hand to do underneath the neck, and you hear the crowd going, oh, go, 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 and they know that that rear naked's coming. Things of that nature are what we need to worry about, not people who are pissed off that Tyron didn't throw a punch. So that's all I'm saying there. So Dana, one love to you, man. I love you. I got a picture of me and you behind me. You started this shit. You started the game. I'm just giving you my opinion. And keep on watching all these, just be better. Fuck. Anyways, moving on. We're talking about Joe Rogan now. Joe Rogan's contract's up. This is important, but I'm going to make it quick and simple because I'm getting tired of sitting here. His contract's up. I watched the Joe Rogan podcast, him and Eddie Bravo. It's 3 hours and 38 minutes, and I was going to watch it twice, but it's so fucking long. I'm still going to watch it twice because it's amazing. I'm talking about flat Earth. We're talking about fake moon landings. We're talking about Tower 7. If you don't know about Tower 7, look into it. So Joe and him are talking. They're talking about doing a fight companion for UFC 215. That's the next pay-per-view. With that, he's not commentating on UFC 215. Why? Well, he's actually going to be in the town UFC 215 is happening at, but he's still not commentating. There's something behind it. I'm not breaking news or nothing, but I am saying that he's going to be doing comedy and he's not going to be commentating, and his contract's up. And if he's got no commentary and it's a pay-per-view event in the U.S., which is what he wants to do, we're pretty much talking about Joe Rogan probably stepping off. I mean, they took Goldberg away from him. You've really seen the commentating go down quite a bit. You got Joe Rogan, the main voice of it, which we all love. They know we love him. And they took Goldberg away and gave us either, you got Dominic Cruz, great guy, great to listen to, really good commentator. So I'm not knocking him. It's just not Mike Goldberg. You got Brian Stan. Brian Stan is a badass military dude who fought UFC, is a great commentator, looks amazing for a camera. Still not Mike Goldberg. Then you got John Anik, who drives me fucking nuts. I can't stand the dude. Sure, you're probably a great guy and whatnot, but your commentating, your voice, all the shit you do, it just not really for me, buddy. Not digging it. But that's just my personal opinion. I don't like a lot of things, so don't take it personally. However, if you go on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, you can see Mike Goldberg giving you the end of UFC 214, Daniel Cormier, John Jones, when he does his commentary on John Jones. And he looks a little lit. He's in a bar watching the fights, but he fucking turns around to someone's camera and says, "It is over." And he does this whole thing. I'm not even going to try it because I'll disrespect it. But talk about a fucking great guy, and I really hate that Bellator has him now. And if Bellator's out there listening, dude, sign Joe Rogan. Throw as much money as you can his fucking way. Get rid of your commentators. I like them both. They're good guys. But if you get the Joe Rogan, Mike Goldberg commentating team, you're breaking through a roof. You're getting a whole different level of motherfuckers watching your fights. So, in closing, Dana White, be nice to your fighters. Joe Rogan, it's been great watching you commentate the UFC, watched your comedy, and all your podcasts. He did come out saying that he wants to do less, and he wants to cut things out. He says he's doing podcasting, he's doing UFC commentating, he's doing comedy, and he said he wants to do less, and he actually said probably cutting out broadcasting. And that was kind of a little hint. So as a fan, we all love you. Hope you stay. But otherwise, all the people out there, check me out on Instagram, Ralph's Pound for Pound Breakdown. Go ahead and check me out on the YouTube channel. I try to do one daily. Subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Check out if you're in San Diego. That's where I'm at. Alliance Jiu-Jitsu, San Diego. Alliance Jiu-Jitsu, Carlsbad. And thanks for watching, everybody. So this is Ralph's Pound for Pound Breakdown. Peace.